After a long Thanksgiving weekend with my family, I dragged myself back to my little Portland apartment, bone-tired from all the cooking, laughing, and catching up. Everything felt normal, just the usual holiday chaos, until I flopped onto my couch and opened my banking app to pay the water bill. My heart stopped. The screen showed $127.38. I blinked, rubbed my eyes, and checked again. No way. Just 3 days ago, I had $12,500 in that account. My hands shook as I refreshed the app, thinking it had to be a glitch. It wasn't. The number stared back, cold and final. My stomach churned, and my chest felt like someone was squeezing it tight. I called the bank right away, my voice barely steady. After a few security questions, the rep's voice came through, calm but serious. The transactions were made from a device you've used before. The IP address matches a computer at an address in Beaverton, my mom's house. The same place where we just spent the whole weekend together, carving turkey and swapping stories. I grabbed my keys, my mind racing, and drove the 20 miles back to Beaverton, the holiday warmth replaced by a gnawing dread. The house looked the same as it did a few hours ago, string lights still twinkling on the porch, the faint smell of pumpkin pie lingering in the air. Inside, my sister-in-law Rachel was sprawled on the couch, scrolling on her phone, a half-empty glass of iced tea sweating on the coffee table. My brother Michael was in the kitchen, rummaging through the fridge. Mom was wiping down the counter, humming softly, and Dad was in his recliner, flipping through a car magazine. It was so normal it made my skin crawl. "Hey, you're back already?" Rachel said, not even looking up, her voice light like I just popped by for leftovers. I stood in the doorway, gripping my phone so tight my knuckles ached. "I just checked my bank account," I said, trying to keep my voice even, but it cracked anyway. "It's almost empty. What happened?" The room went quiet. Mom stopped wiping the counter. Michael shut the fridge door, holding a can of soda. Rachel finally looked up, her eyebrows raised like I'd just asked something ridiculous. "Oh, that," Michael said, leaning against the counter with a smirk. "We needed the money, Sarah. You know how tight things have been." My brain couldn't process it. Needed the money? I felt like I'd been slapped. "You took it? Without asking?" My voice was louder now, shaking. Rachel shrugged, setting her phone down. "It's not like we stole it. You left your account logged in on Mom's computer last time you were here. I saw it open and, well, we figured you wouldn't mind. You've got a good job, no kids, no mortgage." Her tone was so casual, like she was talking about borrowing a sweater. I turned to Mom, my heart pounding. "Mom, did you know about this?" She sighed, folding the dish towel neatly, her eyes fixed on the counter. "Sarah, you're always so sensitive. It's family. You have plenty. What's wrong with helping out a little?" Helping out? My savings, years of skipping vacations, eating cheap meals, working overtime, gone, and they called it helping? I looked at Dad, hoping for something, anything. He glanced up from his magazine, his face blank. "Don't make a big deal out of it, Sarah. It's family business." Family business. The words hit like a punch. I turned back to Rachel. "How did you even get into my account?" She rolled her eyes like I was the one being unreasonable. "Like I said, you didn't log out. I just used the saved password. It's not like we hacked anything." Michael chuckled, popping open his soda. "Come on, Sarah. It's not like we went on a shopping spree. It was for rent, groceries, stuff for our kid. You know we're struggling. You're not. You'll make it back." I stood there, frozen, my nails digging into my palms. Not one of them looked sorry. Not one of them cared that I felt like my world had just been ripped apart. "What did I do to deserve this?" I whispered, my voice breaking. Rachel tossed her hair back, sipping her tea. "Don't be so dramatic. You're fine. You always are." I grabbed my purse, my hands trembling so bad I could barely hold it. No one stopped me. No one asked if I was okay. Mom just called out, "Don't forget dinner next Sunday," like it was any other day. I walked to the door, my chest hollow, but before I left, I turned back, my hand on the knob. "If you think I'm letting this go, you're wrong." Rachel laughed, a sharp, dismissive sound. "Oh, please, Sarah. You're not going to do anything. We needed that money more than you. Don't be selfish." I didn't answer. Outside, the November rain had started, cold and steady. I got in my car, gripping the steering wheel until my hands hurt. The porch lights faded in my rearview mirror as I drove away, their words echoing in my head. We needed that money more than you. No apology, no guilt. It felt like a bad dream, but the empty bank account on my phone was real. I didn't know what I was going to do next, but I knew one thing. I wasn't their ATM anymore. I drove back to my Portland apartment through the rain, Rachel's words still burning in my ears. We needed that money more than you. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. I couldn't shake the image of Mom folding that dish towel, calm as ever, or Michael's smirk as he cracked open his soda. How could they act like taking my savings was no big deal? By the time I got home, the rain had slowed to a drizzle, but inside me a storm was raging. I sank onto my couch, staring at the banking app again. $127.38. That number felt like a betrayal carved into my phone. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat at my kitchen table, a mug of cold coffee in my hands, and started piecing together how I'd gotten here. It wasn't just this one time. It had been years of this. I thought back to when I was 25, fresh out of grad school, landing my first big job at the tech company. I was so proud, thinking I could help my family out. The first call came from Michael. "Hey, Sarah, my car broke down. Can you spot me $300? I'll pay you back." I didn't think twice. Family helps family, right? But he never paid me back. Then Rachel called, saying their daughter Lily needed new school clothes. "You're doing so well, Sarah. Can you help? It's just $200. I sent the money that same day. Mom's medical bills piled up after her knee surgery, and I covered those too, dipping into my savings. Every time they'd say, "You're the stable one, Sarah. We're so lucky to have you." It sounded like love back then. Now I saw it for what it was, an expectation. I remembered the little things I gave up. 2 years ago, Claire invited me to a girls' trip to San Diego. I was so excited. Sun, beaches, a real break. But then Rachel called, saying they were behind on their car payments. "We might lose it, Sarah. Lily needs me to drive her to school." I sent $1,500, canceled the trip, and told Claire I was too busy. She knew something was up but didn't push. I ate ramen for weeks to balance my budget after that. Then there was the time I wanted to buy a new laptop for work. Michael asked for $800 for emergency repairs on their apartment. I sent it and kept using my slow, glitchy computer. Every time I helped, I told myself it was temporary. They'd get back on their feet. They'd see how much I was sacrificing, but they never did. The worst part? They never asked how I was doing. Not once did Mom say, "Sarah, are you okay?" Or Michael ask, "Can you afford this?" They just assumed I was fine because I had a good job, no kids, no debt. But I had my own struggles. I worked 50-hour weeks, skipped dinners out to save money, and lay awake some nights, wondering if I'd ever have enough for a house of my own. I wasn't rich. I was just careful. And they took advantage of that. Sitting there in the dim light of my kitchen, I felt like a fool. All those years, I thought I was being a good daughter, a good sister. But to them, I wasn't Sarah. I was a bank account, a safety net they could cut holes in whenever they wanted. The betrayal stung, but it also woke me up. I wasn't just mad at them. I was mad at myself for letting it go on so long. I'd been so scared of seeming selfish, of losing their love, that I'd given them everything. But love doesn't drain you dry. Love doesn't laugh when you're hurting. I opened my laptop and started pulling up old bank statements, emails, text messages, every time I'd sent them money. I wasn't sure what I'd do with it yet, but I knew I needed proof. Proof that I wasn't crazy. Proof that I'd given enough. The rain had stopped outside, and as the first hint of dawn crept through my window, I felt something shift inside me. I wasn't going to let them take my voice, too. Not anymore. The next few days were a blur of anger and exhaustion. I barely slept, replaying that Thanksgiving confrontation in my head, Rachel's shrug, Michael's smirk, Mom's calm voice calling it family business. My savings, scraped together over years of hard work, were gone, and they acted like I was the one overreacting. By Saturday morning, I couldn't take it anymore. I had to do something. I pulled up my bank statements again, staring at the transactions that drained my account. One stood out, A $9,200 transfer from Mom's computer made the day after I'd used it to check my work email during the holiday prep. I hadn't logged into my bank account there, but I must have left my password saved from years ago when I helped Mom pay her bills online. That was my mistake, but it didn't justify what they did. I printed out every suspicious charge, highlighting them in red, and decided to go back to Beaverton. I needed answers, and I wasn't leaving without them. Driving to Mom's house, my stomach twisted with nerves. The familiar oak trees lining the street felt different now, like they were guarding a place I didn't belong anymore. I parked in the driveway, grabbed my folder of bank statements, and walked inside. The house smelled like roasted chicken, and the TV was on low, playing a football game. Rachel was at the kitchen table cutting coupons, while Michael lounged on the couch with a beer. Mom was in the dining room, arranging a centerpiece of pine cones for some future family dinner. Dad was nowhere in sight, probably in the garage tinkering with his old radio. "Sarah, what's up?" Rachel said, barely glancing at me, her scissors snipping through a cereal ad. I set the folder on the table, my hands steady despite the pounding in my chest. I pulled my bank records. Someone accessed my account from this house. I was here, yeah, but I didn't log into my bank, so who did? The room went still. Rachel's scissors stopped. Michael sat up, setting his beer down with a soft clink. Mom walked in, wiping her hands on a dish towel, her face unreadable. "What are you talking about, Sarah?" she said, her voice gentle, like I was a kid throwing a tantrum. I opened the folder, spreading out the highlighted statements. This, a $9,200 transfer, plus smaller ones, all from Mom's computer. I didn't make these. Someone used my saved password. I want to know who. Rachel leaned back, crossing her arms. "You're still on about this. You left your account open, Sarah. It's not like we broke in. We just borrowed what we needed." Borrowed. The word made my blood boil. You took almost everything I had without asking. That's not borrowing, that's stealing. Michael stood up, his face hard. "Don't throw around words like that. We're family. We were in a bind, Lily's preschool fees, our rent, Mom's meds. You've got no idea what it's like to struggle." I stared at him, my voice shaking but firm. "I know what it's like to work 50 hours a week, to skip vacations, to eat cheap food so I can save. You didn't ask, Michael. You just took." Mom stepped closer, her eyes soft but distant. "Sarah, honey, don't make this bigger than it is. You've always been the strong one. We needed help, and you've got so much. Why can't you share?" "Share?" I wanted to scream. Instead, I turned to her. "Mom, you knew about this. You let it happen. Why didn't you stop them?" She looked away, folding the towel in her hands. "It's not like that. We're a family. We do what we have to." I glanced around the room, waiting for someone to say they were sorry, to admit they'd crossed a line. No one did. Rachel rolled her eyes. "You're acting like we bought a yacht. It was for necessities. You'll make it back." Michael nodded, his tone mocking. "Yeah, Sarah, chill. You're not broke. You've got that fancy job." I looked at Mom again, hoping for something, anything. She just sighed. "Let's not fight. You're here now. Stay for dinner." Dinner? I couldn't believe it. My whole world was crumbling, and they wanted me to sit down for chicken like nothing happened. I gathered my papers, my hands trembling. "This isn't over," I said, my voice low. Rachel laughed, sharp and cold. "What, you gonna call the cops? Over family? Good luck with that." I didn't answer. I walked out, the door clicking shut behind me, their voices fading as I stepped into the chilly afternoon. Back in Portland, I spent Sunday at my desk organizing everything. Bank statements, screenshots of old texts where Michael and Rachel asked for money, emails confirming past transfers I'd made to help them. I found a receipt from when I paid $2,000 for Mom's hospital bill 2 years ago. Every piece was a reminder of how much I'd given, how little they'd cared. By Monday morning, I knew what I had to do. I drove downtown to the Portland Police Bureau's Financial Crimes Unit, my folder and a USB drive with all my evidence in hand. Officer Daniels, a woman with a kind but no-nonsense demeanor, took my case. She flipped through my documents, her pen tapping the desk. "This is thorough," she said, nodding. We'll start a preliminary investigation for unauthorized access and financial fraud. Can you provide the names of the individuals involved?" I took a deep breath. Rachel Bennett, Michael Bennett, Susan Bennett, Robert Bennett. Saying their names out loud felt like a weight lifting, but it hurt too. That night, my phone lit up with texts. First from Rachel. "Sarah, what are you doing? You can't be serious." Then Michael. "This is low even for you. Call it off." Mom's voicemail came last, her voice soft but pleading. "Sarah, we're family. You don't need to do this. Please call me." I didn't respond. I sat on my balcony watching the city lights flicker, feeling a strange mix of relief and grief. I wasn't doing this to hurt them. I was doing it to stop hurting myself. The next day, Officer Daniels called with an update. "We've confirmed the transactions originated from the Beaverton address. We'll be visiting the residence soon." My heart raced, but I felt steady for the first time in days. I wasn't backing down. As the week went on, the messages kept coming. Rachel's tone turned desperate. "My account's frozen, Sarah. Lily's tuition is due. Are you happy now?" Michael's was angry. "You're destroying us. Hope you're proud." Mom's was the hardest, her voice breaking in a voicemail. "Sarah, I know we messed up, but this is too far. Please, let's talk." I listened to it 3 times, my finger hovering over the call button, but I didn't press it. I'd spent years talking, giving, hoping they'd see me as more than a wallet. They never did. Now, I was choosing myself. I turned off my phone and looked out at the Portland skyline, the rain starting again, soft and steady. For the first time, I felt like I was standing up, not just for my money, but for my worth. And no matter what came next, I wasn't going to let them take that away again. The rain didn't let up in Portland, and neither did the messages from my family. Rachel's texts grew sharper, Michael's voicemails angrier, and Mom's pleas softer, but I stopped listening. After filing the complaint with Officer Daniels, I felt a shift inside me. Not victory, but resolve. I couldn't stay in this city anymore, surrounded by memories of their betrayal. I needed a fresh start, somewhere I could breathe. Boise, Idaho popped into my mind. I'd passed through it years ago on a work trip, stopping for coffee at a cozy shop by the Boise River. The quiet streets and open skies had stuck with me, a place that felt like it could hold space for healing. By the end of the week, I'd made up my mind. I requested a leave of absence from my job, packed my essentials into my hatchback, and drove the 400 miles east, leaving Portland's gray clouds behind. Boise welcomed me with a crisp March breeze and a sunset that painted the foothills gold. I rented a small studio apartment near the river, with big windows that let in the morning light. It wasn't fancy, just white walls, a tiny kitchen, and a balcony barely big enough for a chair. But it was mine. I changed my phone number, cutting off the flood of texts and calls. My boss, thankfully, was understanding and let me switch to remote work for the foreseeable future. For the first time in years, I wasn't checking my bank account every morning, bracing for another emergency from Michael or Rachel. I wasn't jumping at every notification, expecting Mom to ask for help with a bill. I was just living. I started small, reclaiming pieces of myself I'd put on hold. I bought a soft gray sofa, the kind I'd always wanted, but never justified spending money on. I hung a string of fairy lights on my balcony, their warm glow making the evenings feel softer. I signed up for a painting class at a local community center, something I hadn't done since high school. My first canvas was a mess of blues and greens, but holding the brush felt like coming alive. I joined a running group that met by the river every Saturday, and the rhythm of my sneakers on the trail quieted the noise in my head. I wasn't running from anything anymore. I was running toward myself. One afternoon, while unpacking, I found an old journal buried in a box. Its pages were half filled with to-do lists and budgets, reminders to send money to Michael or pay Mom's electric bill. I tore those pages out and started writing again, but this time it was different. I wrote about the way the Boise River sparkled at dusk, about the thrill of finishing a painting, about the peace of waking up without dread. I wrote about how I wasn't angry anymore, just done. Done being the family's safety net, done carrying their weight while they ignored mine. The journal became my anchor, a place to remind myself who I was beyond their expectations. A few weeks into my new life, my boss called. "Sarah, your latest project plan was stellar," he said, his voice warm through the phone. "We're creating a new role, regional lead for the Northwest. You'd be perfect for it. What do you think?" I paused, standing on my balcony, watching a hawk circle over the foothills. A year ago, I would have said no, worried about leaving room for the next family crisis. But now? I smiled. "I'm in." He laughed. "Knew you'd be the one. Congrats, Sarah." The promotion came with a raise, enough to rebuild my savings and maybe even start dreaming about a house someday. It wasn't just the money, it was the reminder that I was good at what I did, that I deserved more than being a fallback for people who never saw me. I started cooking again, too. Simple things like roasted veggies and pasta with homemade sauce. I'd forgotten how much I loved it, how chopping garlic and stirring a pot could feel like a small act of care for myself. One evening, I invited a woman from my running group over for dinner. We sat on my balcony, laughing over glasses of iced tea, and for the first time in years, I wasn't bracing for a call from Rachel or a text from Mom. I was just there, in the moment, feeling like Sarah again, not the family bank, not the fixer, just me. Boise wasn't perfect. Some nights I'd lie awake wondering if I'd been too harsh, if I should have given them one more chance. But then I'd remember Rachel's laugh, Michael's chill, Mom's folded towel. They hadn't just taken my money, they'd taken my trust, my peace. Moving here wasn't about running away, it was about choosing myself. I looked out my window at the river, its current steady and sure, and felt something I hadn't in years, hope. I was building a life that was mine piece by piece, and no one could take that away. Not anymore. Settling into Boise felt like learning to breathe again, but the ripples of what I'd done didn't stop at my new apartment's doorstep. My family's messages had slowed to a trickle, mostly Mom's occasional voicemails, her voice soft and pleading, asking me to call. I didn't. Not because I hated them, but because I was finally protecting myself. One sunny April afternoon, as I watered a small basil plant on my balcony, my phone pinged with an email. The name in my inbox stopped me cold, Jessica Carter. It took a second to place her. She was a distant cousin-in-law, someone I'd met maybe twice at family gatherings, always quiet, hovering on the edges. The subject line read, "Thank you, Sarah." Curious, I opened it, leaning against the balcony railing, the Boise River glinting below. Jessica's words hit me like a warm breeze. She wrote about how she'd heard what I did, standing up to my family, filing the complaint, walking away. She'd been stuck in her own cycle, she said, always bailing out her parents and brother because they called her the successful one. They'd guilt her into sending money, even when she was scraping by on 2 jobs. "When I heard you drew a line," she wrote, "it was like someone turned on a light. I said no to them last week, and it was terrifying, but I felt free. You showed me I'm not selfish for wanting to keep something for myself. Thank you, Sarah." I stood there, my eyes stinging, the basil forgotten. I hadn't done this for anyone else, but knowing I'd helped Jessica, even without meaning to, made my heart swell. It wasn't just her. A few days later, Claire texted me after reading a short post I'd shared on a private blog about setting boundaries. "Sarah, I always thought you were unbreakable," she wrote, "but now I see you were carrying so much. You're so brave for choosing yourself." I read her words over and over, sitting on my new sofa, the fairy lights casting a soft glow. Brave? I'd never thought of myself that way. I'd just been tired of giving until I had nothing left. But Claire's message, Jessica's email, they showed me something new. My story wasn't just mine anymore. It was a spark for others. Proof that saying no didn't make you cruel. It made you whole. I opened my journal that night, the one I'd been filling with thoughts instead of budgets. I wrote, "I'm not the family ATM, I'm Sarah." Those words felt like a promise, not just to myself, but to the person I was becoming. I wasn't defined by what I gave or what they took. I was defined by my choices, choosing to leave, to rebuild, to live for me. The next morning, I walked to the river, my running shoes kicking up dust on the trail. The water was calm, reflecting the cottonwood trees in full bloom. A family biked past, a little boy wobbling on training wheels, his mom cheering him on. I smiled, not because I missed my family, but because I was starting to understand what family could mean. People who saw you, who cared without conditions. Standing there, I thought about Jessica, about Claire, about the women in my painting class who'd become friends. They didn't ask for my money or my time. They asked how I was, invited me to coffee, laughed with me over bad brushstrokes. That was the family I was building, not by blood, but by respect. I didn't need Mom's approval or Rachel's apologies anymore. Maybe one day they'd see what they'd done, maybe not. Either way, I was done waiting. As the sun dipped low, painting the sky pink, I felt something settle inside me. Pride. Not for hurting them, but for saving myself. I'd walked away from a house that never felt like home and found a place where I belonged. I turned back toward my apartment, the river's quiet hum in my ears, and knew this was just the beginning. I was Sarah, and for the first time, that was enough. Sometimes, the bravest thing is choosing yourself, setting limits, and building a life that feels true. If you're stuck giving too much, feeling unseen, take that first step. Say no. Walk away. Start small. Your peace is worth it. My journey wasn't easy, but it showed me I'm enough, just as I am. If my story resonates with you, don't miss more real-life lessons like this. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you never miss a story that could inspire your own path to freedom. Keep growing. Keep choosing you.